Oh, there's Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol. We're now going to live to YouTube. Welcome to everybody on YouTube. I forgot that we were going to be using YouTube all the time now. So now we are on YouTube and we are on Zoom as well. So I want everybody to meet Pat Youngquist, who is a wonderful person, of course, in this community. She is the executive director of Union Mission, as I mentioned to Sheila earlier, which is the preeminent organization in town that helps the homeless in a wide variety of ways. She worked in the private sector for profit sector for a while and for 13 years or so. And then she wanted to go into the nonprofits. She's been in Savannah since 2015 with her husband, and she took over the reins of Union Mission, I think 2 years ago. Has done an excellent job. She is very beloved in the community, as you can expect. And she is a member of everything, including the Rotary I'm in, and does so many things. She was even named one of the difference makers by the Savannah Economic Development Authority, along with others on Savannah Now. And again, a good friend. So I want to invite everyone to welcome Pat Youngquist to the show. Pat, again, this is going to be, we have a few people on Zoom today, just a couple, but we also put it on Zoom, on YouTube, which I forgot we're now doing for everything we do. So welcome, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction.
You're a wonderful person. And basically what we do is just a venue to introduce interesting people who've done things for Savannah and who continue to do so, sometimes in the Jewish community, sometimes outside, and you do both. But before we get to that, where did you grow up and what did you originally do before? I had trouble finding that online, except that I knew you were professional, I think in accounting or something before.
Yes.
I couldn't find that.
Oh, where did I grow up and sort of my background? I'm a native of Chicago, Illinois. I guess my growing up years were kind of typical. I mean, I grew up in the 60s and so in the 50s and 60s. And, a lot of, interestingly though, I graduated the 8th grade in 1968, which a lot of people are comparing this time to that time. So I kind of grew up in that era, but in a steel mill neighborhood in Chicago. We were near steel mills. Actually did grow up in a Jewish neighborhood. So I was one of the only non-Jewish kids in my class. So I went to a lot of bar and bat mitzvahs growing up. All the kids, seemed a little jealous that we had a Christmas tree, but I was jealous that they had Hanukkah and they got more presents. It seemed to me that, getting them every night was better than what I had. But so so that was my growing up. And I'm very grateful actually that I grew up with a diverse background in that way. So I ended up getting an accounting degree when I went to college. Actually, I did all my college at night. I worked full time and got an accounting degree. And as Rabbi Haas said, I was in the for-profit world, actually in the automotive business when I was working in the for-profit world, which was very challenging in a lot of ways, being a female, being a woman in that business in the 80s. And I ended up deciding that I wanted to do nonprofit work, that I wanted to kind of give back. And I realized at that point in my career that nonprofits, including the church, I ended up becoming a United Methodist after a 20-year absence from church. But I did come to realize that nonprofits, including the church, often needed people with an accounting or finance background, that they kind of struggled in that area. So that's really what I decided to do. After working for the United Methodist Church for a few years, I decided to go to seminary. I felt a calling to full-time ministry and to possibly be a pastor, which I have also pastored. So I'm a United Methodist clergy person. And I've done a lot of work with the United Methodist Church. I was a CFO at a United Methodist Seminary. I was the United Methodist Church has this huge finance office in Nashville. I worked there as their chief operating officer. So I've done a lot of work again with the United Methodist Church. I've done some church consulting around finance. But I also, long story short, I was actually working for the United Methodist Church when I came to Savannah, but I was working from home. I'm an extrovert, and I did feel a way that I could give back, not necessarily through the church, was to the community and to a nonprofit like Union Mission. So Union Mission does provide services to homeless people. I can tell you more about that. But I started there as the director of finance, and ended up about 11 months after that being asked by the board to become the executive director, first interim and then permanent. So I've been with Union Mission 4.5 years, and actually 3.5 of those again as the executive director.
That's like on 3.5. Wow, it goes by
Time
quickly.
flies when we're having fun.
That's right. And I understand what you're talking about, the car business. My wife was a financial officer for a big car dealership, and she, I think, said was the only female in that position in the county. And so it was a nice place to work, but it was interesting to be the only woman, she said.
Yeah, even now it's, still sort of a male oriented dominated industry, but back in the 80s, I was
even more, especially in the accounting firm.
Yeah, it was quite, it was challenging. Now I like the car business. It's kind of fast paced, and I don't know if it's my Chicago or what, but I mean, I'm kind of like that, but yeah, I just decided I needed something I really did want to give back. So that's kind of why I made this shift in my career. And Union Mission, it's been a good fit for me. They did have financial challenges when I got there. And we've been able, with the help of a great team, of course, to turn that around. And Rabbi Haas has emceed our last 2 fundraisers, and he's helped us out with that. And as you know, I'm sure that he's a real draw. So
I just have a Southern draw, but yeah, I mean, people don't all realize that you have done a lot in the financial realm for as a person who is outgoing and charismatic. It's also the financing side that's really been helpful to them, and it's nice that they're doing so well. Can you tell us a little bit about the population that you work with now in Savannah?
Sure. So Union Mission, you mean around the work we do at Union Mission?
Exactly.
So we have a variety of programs that help homeless people. We have facilities, and I think, Sheila, you mentioned you live in South Carolina and you come over the bridge.
Right. So does Carol. We both live in South Carolina.
Yeah. So when you come onto Oglethorpe, that very first light, if you would make a left, that's where my office is, and that's where our men's shelter is. You can actually see it. You see a blue awning. If you look over to your left, we're just past the bus station. Okay.
Oh, I know where that. I know where that is. Yes.
Yeah, it's on Fawn. Mm-hmm.
But what happened? Can you answer that? What happened when you come around that loop?
So, well, when you come over the bridge, that's just where our facility is. So you probably
I asked you when you come off.
Oh, you asked me about what happened to that camp?
Yeah, there was a camp there with tents for years.
That's
and now they're not there.
So what happened after Hurricane Matthew was the county determined they wanted to do a lot of clearing of land. And so basically there were a lot of homeless people living in where there are a lot of trees and so forth. So basically those people moved. They didn't really, I mean, they were displaced, but a large majority of the homeless people that were in those places just basically moved to other places. So there's about 22 homeless camps in Chatham County. Our organization is not the one that provides direct service to them. There's something called the Chatham-Savannah Authority for the Homeless. You might have heard of that. Cindy Kelly, the tiny houses. They have a grant from the state. It's called a street outreach grant. And so they have a team of people that goes into the camps, of course, encourages people to maybe come to a place like ours. I'll tell you more about that, but we provide shelter for people. Okay. So they encourage people to get out of the camps, or like now with COVID, they would be the ones to assist them to get to JC Lewis to get tested, or if they're sick, to help them get to where they need to be, or when there's a hurricane, helps them to evacuate, you know. So that's the group that we work with that group, because of course they really do try to encourage people to get out of the camps. Some people don't want to get out of the camps, but we provide, again, shelter service, like a 90-day program for men and women with children. We have a transition, it's called transitional housing services for up to 24 months, and that's for men. We have 12 beds for men that are what we call our returning citizens, men getting out of the Georgia correctional system come to our place. So in that building I was describing to you that you see when you come off the bridge, we have 70 men. Well, we had to reduce due to social distancing. So we now have about 60 men there, 56 to 60 there. Again, we've got 20 beds for women with children. Then we have a whole nother facility. It's called the Phoenix. Well, it's a facility and apartments around, actually not only Chatham County, but all the way down to the Florida line for people with HIV/AIDS. It's called the Phoenix Project. So we have 54 apartment units, again, in that geographic area, down to the Florida line, out to Jessup. We receive federal funding, and of course, all of these programs I'm describing to you, all these people have a case manager. They have what we call an individual service plan, where they have a plan to improve their situation, whether it's improving employment or getting employment, or a lot of times we need to help folks reconnect with a family member. You know, they're homeless. Could you call your brother? Could you call this person? We do provide mental health counseling as well. So that of course helps people to get back on their feet. So, and then down on Middle Ground Road on the south side, we have what it's called our Dutchtown Campus Apartments. It's 48 apartment units, and it is for formerly homeless people. So it's called permanent supportive housing. I like to tell people it's permanent as long as we have funding. But it's very, we need really more types of that kind of housing in the community, because it's very, very helpful. Many of the people that live there are what are called chronically homeless. And those are more the people, they have either a mental or physical disability, plus they've been homeless for over a year. A lot of the people you see in the camps, you might call a chronically, or out on the squares, you might call a chronically homeless person. So these apartments, we have a lot of those folks that we're able to move into permanent housing. So, and a lot of them then in turn get their own apartment. You know, they get a job, they get stable. They all have a case manager. They have access to mental health counseling. But a lot of those people do get stable, and then they're able to move out. So we're proud of the fact that 78% of our people get to some sort of stable housing.
Right. Yeah, and you don't see that very often, especially with men's housing.
Yeah.
And so what led you to become part of this organization as opposed to all the other ones?
Well, there was an ad in the paper.
That makes a difference.
And it was interesting too. I do believe, you know, when I'm prayerful, and I'm not only prayerful, but I think in all of we can all relate to maybe in our situations that we want to be mindful and watchful of what's going on in our circumstances, you know, and just see what the indications might be that maybe we should make a move from one thing to another. Because I probably had started maybe trying to discern what to do with my other position back like in August. But when I finally, after the first of the year, I had tried different things, and actually my birthday's in January, and I opened up the Savannah Morning News, online, you know, and there's this ad, and I'm like, hey, I could do this. So, I looked at the tax returns online and all that kind of thing, did my research. I knew it would be challenging, but I knew that I was up for the challenge. So I applied and got the job. So, and it was really good being new in the community. Now, if you're working from home and you're new in the community, it's really hard to meet people. So, and I am an extrovert, so meeting people was important to me. So,
And you do, you're at a lot of events for sure. So you met a lot of people until recently. So
yeah, until recently.
so what brought you to Savannah? Was it
Carol's waving at us.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Thank
Carol,
you.
go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Thanks. Hi, Patricia. I
Hi.
have a question for you. Not on your scale, but I did work for a homeless shelter in Manhattan when I was still in
Oh,
and we had difficulty having the men and women sleep overnight in we couldn't separate them enough. So that was one problem. Then some people that were mentally ill would act out. How do you handle situations like that?
well, now we don't have any facility that has men and women in the same building.
Oh, they're not.
Okay. And some of the other homeless facilities in Savannah do. Salvation Army does. There's one called Inner City Night Shelter that's out on President Street. And that's an interesting question that you ask. I've never asked them that, but I that might be a question I would ask Yvonne or Pryor, who's over that, because she deals with actually some of the very toughest people.
Mhm.
And we are at Union Mission, we are what's called a dry shelter. We have people that are in recovery and looking to lead a sober life. We also, because we take federal funds, cannot take sex offenders. Inner City Night Shelter takes all of those that I just named. Okay. So some of the really tougher people out on the street, they're the ones that she assists. But getting back to your question on the mental health aspect of it, at times we do have to call 911, what's called it when you 1013, when someone is maybe even threatening to take their own life or having some sort of an episode. We do that from time to time, but we don't actually have to do it that often. I guess
This was New York. So
yeah.
and we had actually have guards, 2 guards on
Oh, wow. Okay.
overnight, just in case. We had that problem. So I was curious as to what your situation was. Thank you.
And we do work closely with the police. A lot of what's going on now with the unrest, and people talk about how much the police are required to get involved, and that's very true. I mean, the police have to deal with homeless in all kinds of ways. I mean, there are 2 officers that we know very well that, that's their job, is to just deal with the homeless. Okay. And there are a lot of mentally ill, and Sheriff Wilcher of Chatham County will be the first to say, I'm not equipped to take care of people who need help, that kind of help, right? I mean, that's not what his jail is for. So Gateway Behavioral Health, I don't know if you've heard of that, but they just opened up a facility with, I think it's 24 beds for people like that I was just describing, because the law enforcement, they do care about people, and they're tired. They don't want to take people to jail that need some other kind of help, right? The jail doesn't want them, and they don't want to do that, right? So we just recently got these 24 beds in our community that can help people that are having those kind of episodes. And then in turn, Gateway can maybe even refer them to us. Sometimes we have people come to our door that just they got off their meds, right? And so they need to get back on their meds, and then they can get stable again. So
thank you.
It's such a balance.
Yeah.
And again, is everything full up to capacity with what's going on? Has it affected that population as well?
Actually, we are at full capacity. At first, it's interesting, when people got their stimulus checks, especially moms with kids, we didn't have as many, but we're back full again. Actually, we just took in a mother who has 7 children. So that's really, that's hard to get, for me, it's hard to get my head around thinking about being homeless with 7 children. Apparently the parents were together but they couldn't find anywhere that would house them and within the homeless system. So he's in a shelter and she's at our place with her 7 kids. So,
Wow, that's
but we anticipate we're going to see more with, because once evictions begin,
which is at the end of this month, I think, right?
I think it is. Yeah, right. Because when we're under a federal emergency, people can't be evicted. But soon, once people are evicted, there's of course going to be more homeless people. But we right now are, we're really at capacity. Again, our Grace House, we have less than we normally do because we do practice social distancing. Our client, we're constantly doing temperature checks. Everybody's, supposed to wear their mask when they're not socially distanced. JC Lewis Healthcare actually provided testing for our clients. I think we had 70 tests and we had all negative. So that was pretty exciting. Yes. Yeah, there's a whole series of things that would have to happen, of course, if somebody was negative. When you have congregate living, right? It's telling you about our Phoenix project. That's 10 clients in a building plus staff. So it could get pretty complicated. That's just one of the challenges we have with this, and we all have challenges with this, right? So.
Oh, yes. And I think you're meeting it just like everybody else. I know Union Mission has a lot of challenges. Now, they used to have a police officer who organized and went to all the homeless camps. I think that position no longer exists, but do you have connection with people at all the camps?
Well, the homeless authority more is the ones that go to the camps, but I don't know if you've heard about this camp that the city is working on. The city is working on a camp that would, basically with facilities. It would have trash and water and porta potties and all of that. And they're putting in security cameras and lights. And anyway, when I was in a conversation with them about it, because we do the case management for those people, and there were policemen there that are still looking after the homeless.
That's awesome.
So the police cadets, when they're going through their training, come through our place and learn more about what we do. And so they know to refer people to us. And so we work pretty carefully with the police.
That was also very good at considering what's going on now. So yeah. What originally did bring you to Savannah though?
What brought me to Savannah? Okay, so here was the criteria for so I'm headed towards retirement, right? So I decided there were certain criteria. I used to live in Jacksonville, and of course, you probably know that many people from Jacksonville come up to Savannah, and we go down there too. So I was familiar with Savannah. So at the time I was living in Nashville, working for the United Methodist Church, I got this work from home job, and it was like, I didn't want snow. I lived in the Los Angeles area. I didn't want traffic. I've done all the traffic I'm ever going to do in my life. So no snow, no traffic. What was the other? Oh, I needed to be back near the ocean. So, and I wanted enough things to do. So I thought Savannah was perfect. Lots of nice restaurants, things to do, the ocean.
Oh yeah.
No traffic, no snow. Yeah. Except since I've been here, I've had 3 evacuations and a snowstorm. So.
Yeah, right.
I think anybody who moves here from California or New York and they see everybody driving so slowly, it's quite a shock to them.
Not easy.
No, it is not. If you move away from the camera, you're done. And do we have any questions from Sheila or who's left on? Carol, are you still here? I think.
Yes.
Yes. You have another question?
Well, I do, because I'm interested in who subsidizes the food. Like, because we had some subsidized by the city, and then a lot of donations from a lot of markets and groceries.
Okay.
These next day old breads or canned goods. So I'm interested in where you get all of that.
Okay, that's a good question.
Supplies.
So we we do get quite a few food donations. Publix donates to us. They donate bread. We have pickups from Chick-fil-A and Longhorn Steaks and a couple other restaurants like that really provide some really great food to us. We buy a lot of our food from Second Harvest Food Bank, and that's
Just like
just
Backpack Buddies, right?
That'd be a food bank.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we get our food from there too.
that is amazing. I mean, what we can get from them. So when we had 70 men in the Grace House building, that was kind of the last time I looked at it. We were able to feed them for $100 a week.
Wow.
Yeah,
Not each total?
yeah, all of them, $100.
76.
So
Wow.
you can't beat that, right? So between
Right.
Second Harvest and the food donations, we get Pizza Hut, so they have pizza one night anyway. But I mean, it's all really great food. So we do get a lot of donations. Our Grace House, which is the men, and then what's called Magdalene House, which is our women with children, that is entirely, well, except for a very small portion where the men come back from prison. Georgia, the state of Georgia funds that little part of it, but I would say primarily these are community supported. So we get United Way money, which is of course community. And then we have just individual donations, corporations, foundations, churches and synagogues. That's how we run the place. So even the food I'm describing to you, that's just paid for with donations that we do buy from Second Harvest, and we buy a little bit from like US Foods or whatever, but primarily our food is Second Harvest and donations.
So the city of Savannah does not contribute, from what I'm hearing. The city, the government.
The city does not provide any funding to us not for food. I'm trying to think if we have, no, we actually don't have any kind of grant with the city. Now, when I was telling you about the living for the HIV/AIDS programs for those people, there is HUD money from that, the federal government, and it comes through the city. We're what's called a subrecipient. In other words, the federal government gives some money to the city of Savannah, and they in turn give it to us. But we don't have any direct contract with the city, except, no, I'm going to take that back. We have something, I don't know if you've seen it around town, that's really worked out great. We have something called a litter clean team. And we have on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for 4 hours, we have a team of 6 that go out and pick up trash. They're out on the squares, they're on River Street, they're on Bay Street. And that is a contract we have with the city, and it's worked really, really well.
That's
great.
great. I've seen people out there.
That's great. Another question?
Sheila, please.
Who takes care of their medical needs? I mean, are there doctors that, volunteer their medicine, that prescriptions they need?
Well, we have two healthcare facilities for, it's called Indigent Healthcare. So one of them is J.C. Lewis, which is right across the street from us. Plus, J.C. Lewis has a mobile unit, which actually goes to the camps. And so they do have a program where they help, obviously they help the people that come to them from our facility, and they fortunately just have to walk across the street. But J.C. Lewis does go out and help the homeless in the camps. They have doctors that volunteer, etc. And then there's, it's called Curtis Cooper. It's over on East Broad Street. So that's another place that they go.
Yeah, I heard their daycare was really good. We were thinking about looking at it. So what have you enjoyed about Savannah for fun, and what you do outside of work before the pandemic?
I love to walk. I'm a big walker. So Savannah is a walking town. I walk even at lunch, or I get lunch and go sit at the square. I feel like I say it's so beautiful. I can't believe I live here. That's how I feel. I live out on Wilmington Island, so I'm 15 minutes from downtown, 15 minutes from Tybee, and I do walk the beach. But it's a beautiful place.
Oh my gosh, it is. Yeah.
That's what I enjoy, is just being outside and enjoying the beauty of it all. Even in the summer, I told you I didn't want snow. My mother said I was the kid. I remember I grew up in Chicago. My mother said I was the kid she put the most sweaters on. So I dislike cold. Now it's hot and humid in Chicago in August, just like here. So, so the humidity and all the heat here does not bother me at all. As long as it doesn't get too cold, I'm good.
I
can't stand.
lived in LA, I lived in Texas, and the heat here is very humid, very similar to Texas.
Yeah.
LA, I didn't even have air conditioning in some of my apartments. So having fun here. And what are the surprises you found when you got to Union Mission, and what were the what points were you excited? You know, what are the surprises and what were you excited about?
Let's see, surprises. I guess there was more to Union Mission than maybe I thought there would be. You know, we're working with the federal government and grants, and that's complicated. I guess I knew working with the federal government would be complicated because it's just, that's, you know, I do my tax return, right? So, there's a lot of moving pieces at Union Mission, not only around our programs, but just around the finances. So I guess that was a surprise. What was the second thing you asked me?
What are some of the surprises, and what are some of the things that that you've seen get better? What are the things that were not that needed a lot of strengthening?
Well, let's see. I think I probably discerned correctly going in that the place, it needed some discipline around money. And I think any of us could even relate to that personally, right? Like, you know, with our spending, you know, sometimes we have to be more disciplined than other times or whatever. And, you know, every organization has a culture. And so there was this sort of a culture of not paying as much attention as maybe they needed to. So, and that would probably have been my strong suit. So I think I was probably a good match. A lot of times the executive director, you know, I said I'm an extrovert, but, you know, might be a little more charismatic or being out, you know, like I'm in some ways I'm somewhat reserved in that way. But I think at the time I was probably the right person to come. And it's very rewarding. I did learn in my ministry and my working in the local church, and I was a chaplain in a hospital. I actually learned that. Pardon me?
Are you Trinity or Wesley?
Oh, where do I worship now?
Yeah.
I'm at Trinity United Methodist downtown on Telfair Square. I did learn that like when I was a chaplain in the hospital, it was actually really hard for me to all day like visit. Like I take it home. I'm like that kind of emotional person. So working in administration, I can really help people, but I'm not the social worker, right? I respect the social workers. I learn from the social workers, but they do that work and I do my work. So
that's a really smart thing to understand that. Not all clergy can understand that.
Yeah, it can be very draining. I mean, it was it's really fun. The whole chaplaincy thing, I did it out in Los Angeles. I really thought I was going to love being a chaplain, and it was like the longest 10 weeks of my life. So,
I think we asked, which hospital did you do it at?
I was at Methodist Hospital in Arcadia.
Okay, because I volunteered for 4 years. I didn't do the official stuff at UCLA Hospital.
Oh, okay.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I'm glad I did it, but sometimes we do things and we find out what we don't want to do. So.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed your time at Union Mission. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Oh, yes, definitely. It's been very rewarding. It's hard work, but I always, whatever I'm doing, I work hard at it. So it's nothing new. And one of the things I think you asked me one thing was something that surprised me. I don't know how long all of you have been in Savannah, but I was kind of surprised. Savannah was a little more of a small town than I thought it was going to be, which is fine. But I actually, when my husband taught college we we were in Iowa. Okay, so that's just a whole, and we went from Los Angeles to Iowa. So you talk about culture shock, right? So
Wow.
I remember when I got to Iowa, it looked like to me like everybody had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I thought, now how am I going to tell these people apart? Because plus I was in a church and I had to get to know them all. But I mean, after a place like Los Angeles, it was just completely different. But anyway, we were at the small college, you know, he was teaching at the small college and there were 9,000 people in this town. And it was in Iowa, and I am from Chicago, like I told you. So it was really different. It was kind of like Mayberry, but not. Okay. And but all that to say is now that really was a small town. But you know, Savannah has a lot of, everybody knows a lot of people, you know, it's kind of a small town. So and that's okay. But I was surprised by that, I think, in moving here. I thought it might be a little bigger. But love all the restaurants, miss going to restaurants, haven't been to a restaurant since March. You know, I picked up food, but haven't sat anywhere.
I just found a coupon, I mean, a gift certificate to Hirano's. So I'm gonna have Japanese probably tomorrow.
Oh, yum, yum.
It's at the bottom of my drawer. I was looking for something else. So
Wow.
I've been. Does anybody else have any questions, Dawn or Carol or Sheila?
I have a request.
Please.
Can I borrow some of your energy?
Yeah, amen.
I need some of that.
And she is at a lot of events through the year. She does a lot. She's really, and again, Savannah, although we are, you know, we're not a giant area, but we are significant, and we do have a homeless population here, and we need to address it. And this is what Union Mission and a couple other organizations have been doing. But we also know there's a lot more to do. And especially with the pandemic, people losing jobs, you have to assume, but I could be wrong, that population will increase. And so how are we going to handle it financially, spiritually, and otherwise? And that's a question that Pat is dealing with every single day. And she has a wonderful group of board of directors and people working there helping her, and really active, and really have a good heart. And I've been at the I just forgot the name of the men's center, the
Grace House.
Grace House, thank you. I've been there several times, and the men there just seem to be doing great. Such nice people, very supportive of each other, very welcoming. So it's a really good environment there. Obviously, I haven't been at the Women and Children's one, but it's been, you know, it's a great place to have the opportunity to be in one place for 2 years is just almost unheard of like that.
Yeah, it really does, especially some of the men that come out of prison really benefit from our program. They go from the 90-day program sponsored by the state into our Grace House, into the transitional, because a lot of times they can't get an apartment because of their, you know, their background, their record. So it gives them stability. They get a job and they save money, and then they are able to get their own apartment because they have that stability. We can give them a reference. I mean, they can actually get out on their own, which they wouldn't be able to do just coming out of prison. So it really does help with that. And thank you for the compliment. I mean, we have a woman that runs our housing program that really helps to build a good environment at all of our places and trains the case managers well in that regard, that, you know, we really respect people, and, you know, just, you know, people, there's a lot of variety of misconceptions about people that are homeless, but you know, often people do have a substance abuse or drug problem, or, you know, they've lost their job, or maybe it's an illness, them or their spouse, but usually it's not even just one thing. It's just, you know, often people have just fallen on bad times, and they need help, you know, and so that's what we're there to do. And the community supports us through the financial donations, the food donations, like you talked about, Carol. And you know, we get toiletries. I mean, we get all kinds of, we have great community support. Savannah's a very generous community. I've lived in a lot of places. I find this community to be very generous.
Yes, it is. It's a very generous. Think about how small we actually are and how
right, and what we're able to
for each
do.
other. And there's a lot of organizations in town that are helping, and I know you coordinate with a lot of the other ones, but you guys are kind of on the front lines trying to help out this population. And I know it must be thrilled to see somebody successfully complete their 2 years and go out and have the job and have a place on their own. It must be such a thrill.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting to know that, yeah, we have people come back and visit and that kind of thing and tell us how they're doing. And sometimes, of course, they leave and we don't know what happened. But we're happy for whatever time and place we can be of help, we are.
Oh, sorry, what you're doing. Great job. Anybody have any questions? We've taken our Sunday school kids there a couple of times to listen to people and to volunteer. And hopefully we'll, at some point in the future, when we can go do volunteer work again, we'll be doing it again. And
Yep,
if you
that's
guys,
right.
anyone who want to donate or have anything, it's Union Mission. Sorry, my voice is going. And again, we're so thrilled to have you on here. Again, this is going to be live on YouTube. When I said we could postpone it, I forgot we're doing everything live on YouTube now. Next week, we're going to be interviewing Moti Lakir, who is the executive director of the Conservative Synagogue AA, and he's going to talk about his time in the military in Israel. Very interesting stories he has to share. The week after that, we'll be doing an interview with Adam Solander, who is the executive director of the Jewish Federation and the Jewish Education Alliance and Jewish Family Services for this area. So those would be as interesting. For everyone, last week we interviewed Marion and Michael Hofstein. He was a director of photography in Hollywood, and she is a stunt woman. So we've had a wide variety of people. So thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you at Rotary. She's also going to be doing a prayer for Rotary soon.
That's right.
To do it. And anything you need from us anytime. So thank you again. We'll see everybody here.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Patricia. Nice meeting
Thank you.
you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for everything. You have a supportive congregation with to us, and we appreciate you.
Thanks. And thanks.
Great to meet you all.
Nice to
my
meet
interview.
you.
Nice
So,
meeting you.
All right. We'll see you guys
All
later.
right.
Or
have a
tomorrow.
good day,
Bye.
Rabbi.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.